What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, going through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, we have a new addition to the Lions 90-man roster, but unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily come in a great way. So let's get it started. Welcome everybody to our video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, man, we are back with some Lions news. And I'm excited for this one. We're going to be talking about a new addition to the Lions 90-man roster. I'll try to keep this thing brief, but I do like this player, man. This is kind of exciting, especially based on where he came from. Unfortunately, a big part of the reason that he is now here with the Detroit Lions happened in unfortunate circumstances. And that is Tom Kennedy, the receiver that I think we've all come to love, and rightfully so. He's earned that after being a UDFA back in 2019 that stuck around, been extremely reliable, hasn't had much of a role on special teams for us, but man, every time we go to him, he just seems to pop up and produce. He's clutch, the moment's never too big for him. We know there's limitations athletically, and I think it was the first year that Dan Campbell got here, and he even talked about that, but they kept Tom Kennedy around because he produced, and some of the free agents that we had signed didn't produce. So they're like, hey, that guy did, we got to keep him around. He earned that spot, and that's what Tom Kennedy's been for the Detroit Lions. So we all love Kennedy, but unfortunately, he was announced to be waived injured by the Lions, which essentially just informs the league that the guy is injured. He'll go through the waiver wire. If he's not claimed, he'll become an unrestricted free agent. And reportedly, the last that we've seen of Tom Kennedy was him being landed on by Jack Campbell. We know that injuries pop up. We'll see. Maybe he'll end up back with the Lions at some point. We know that's a possibility, especially in a practice squad sense, if he's not picked up by someone else, to be a spot player if we ever need him. However, because of this, the Detroit Lions wanted to replace that spot. And today, it was announced that the Detroit Lions were going to do that with a Michigan Panther. Okay, this is kind of fire. So we got the football. I know I showed it off on our live stream with Michael Banks. Okay, we got the Michigan Panthers football shot that I still got in the packaging. Got the Michigan Panthers the USFL ball, but it was watching a Panthers game with Michael Banks. We watched the semifinals. Is that what? Yeah, semifinals in the playoffs. Look, now we can't go back in. Are you kidding me? Okay, there it goes. The semifinals. They lost that game. It went to like triple or overtime or something against the Pittsburgh Maulers. I actually just rewatched that game to check out this player, but this is pretty cool that he signed from that team. First off, we know the Lions like to add a lot of like UDFAs, for example, that are from Michigan or in the area, so that may be part of it. Like, oh yeah, he plays with the Michigan Panthers, we'll bring that player in. But on top of that, he was a producer. Like, this guy did work with the Michigan Panthers, and in that game that we watched, I'll be honest, I really hadn't watched much of the team up until that point, so I didn't really know much about them. I knew a couple players on the roster, but that was basically it. And I can remember watching, man, that 18, he's got some juice to him. And then later in the game, he takes the top off. He kind of wakes up in the second half, goes for over 100 yards, has a touchdown, a nice look off by the quarterback on a nice little wheel route, scored the touchdown. It was like, there he is. Okay, you could see that guy had some juice just from watching him from the stands, and then he just popped. And that is wide receiver Trey Quinn, or I should say just receiver Trey Quinn, who coming out of the draft was listed at essentially 5'11", 203 pounds. Now, this was Mr. Irrelevant back in 2018. Round 7, pick 256 by the now Washington Commanders. And he spent a little bit of time in the NFL. You know, specifically his production came with Washington as a rookie, 9 receptions, 10 targets, 75 yards, and a touchdown. In his second year, it was kind of like the starting slot receiver for Washington, and he had 26 receptions on 47 targets, 198, and a touchdown. But unfortunately, he's dealt with some injuries, specifically in that NFL period, that has consistently kind of kept him off the field. In that 2019 season, had a concussion against the Panthers. And before that, he was regularly playing for Washington, but the concussion knocked him out. You go back to 2018, you're like, where's the production? Well, 2 times he landed on IR for an ankle injury. And then in 2020 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he didn't have any production there. So this is a player that has had some experience in the NFL, but most recently was in the USFL with the Michigan Panthers, where this past season he put up 37 receptions, 438 yards, and 4 touchdowns, which I believe heading into that playoff game was tied for 3rd in the league. Now, athletically speaking, this was not a super gifted athlete in the sense that he's not super big, right? 5'11", 200 pounds. So that feels like a slot type of build, maybe on the outside, but he also didn't have the elite long speed necessarily. He didn't have the elite twitch or explosiveness. There was kind of some limitations athletically for him. You could look at some of his testing scores, 4.55 40, which is really solid. I mean, I can't run that fast. A 1.52 10-yard split, which is really good, but a 33.5-inch vertical, a 6.91 3-cone. Okay, that's not anything insane either. And then also 17 bench press reps, which probably stands out the most. I guess similarly, you remember when St. Brown came out, he wasn't the most explosive athlete, but he was is strong, and that is the case with Trey Quinn as well. You can just see in the game by the way that he plays, he's a powerful receiver, a little bit of a different body type. When you first start watching him, you're like, oh, he's always in the slot. He has the skill set of a slot receiver, but again, he lacks some of that dynamic athleticism. But I guess that's kind of similar to Tom Kennedy in the sense that, to me, the way that he wins is with craftiness, really good hands, and high football intelligence. Like, that's how this player wins right now, or that's how I saw him win with the Panthers. So going through some of the notes that I had taken on this player from what I've seen so far, we'll go through some of those. I'll throw some clips up, we'll talk about him a little bit, and then we'll get out of here and we'll move forward to training camp, because I will be there tomorrow, so I'll be able to get some notes from that, talk about what I saw at training camp tomorrow. But let's start there. First off, the hands. Okay, I feel like Trey Quinn, from what I've seen so far, and then also what was known about him coming out of the draft, he was a player that went to SMU, transferred from LSU, but was essentially a one-year wonder coming out of college. This is a player that had really good hands, and he still has those. You see them in the USFL. He's just got very soft hands. One of the first things that I wrote down was really good tracking in terms of setting himself up to make the catch, finding space, finding windows, pacing himself into quarterback windows, and then also really sound technique, like where the ball was it high, was it low, was it at my chest that I had to extend for it, and then using really proper technique to make the catches look easy, make everything look smooth and fluid. There wasn't a ton of knocks I had on the hand side. My biggest knocks was sometimes I didn't feel like he always ran through the ball, so when you get occasion where it was catch and run opportunities, maybe it was a drag against man, and maybe the ball wasn't necessarily right on him, sometimes I felt like you could have him slow down into catching the football a little bit too much, when it's like, hey, you might need that extra yard to pick up the first down, so he doesn't completely always run through the ball in that sense. But he worked back to the ball when it was contested. Just very smooth, fluid hands, really good technique. I think that's a really nice part of his game. And again, even going back to college, there's just not many drops. He doesn't drop the ball often, and probably the biggest thing for a slot, even though today, it's not really as much of a thing, but it was huge for Saint coming out, is willingness. It's toughness. And it can be hard to kind of pick apart now. It's like, what guys is afraid to go in the middle? Well, not many, but his willingness to stick himself out there in the middle of the field, take the hit, almost act oblivious to the fact that it's going to happen, and just say, I'm going to go after the football. Like, that's the kind of toughness that you need to play. As I said, he's a strong receiver, but he also has that toughness to play that slot position. To his credit, what I do love is that when he feels a defender or he's in traffic, how quick he is to tuck the ball into his body while still catching with his hands. I don't know if he has necessarily elite range in terms of just put it near him, or the sense that he has maybe the strongest hands, but he's able to maintain catching with his hands while in traffic. Like, one ball was actually knocked out as he was tucking it in, but that full process is very fluid for him, and you'll even see it. It almost feels like the game, or the game slows down to him when he's in that catching process. But again, there are those flashes where I feel like he could do it a little bit faster when he needs to do it faster. From the separation aspect, again, back to some of the lack of elite athleticism, I thought he had sufficient foot quickness specifically for a slot role. Now, press coverage at times could give him some issues. No, for him, he did a lot of work off the line of scrimmage, and in the slot, a lot of times they wouldn't have him on the ball, so he had an opportunity to not have to deal with the press at the line of scrimmage. Plus, in the slot, you have more options. You have that three-way go, so it's a little bit more difficult to get a straight press without necessarily just playing leverage. So he was able to avoid some of those situations, but I did feel like when he was played specifically straight up against, you could see some issues with getting off the line of scrimmage against press, some just average foot quickness at the line of scrimmage. I thought it was good enough for slot. I would have some questions from the outside if someone wanted to get up and get physical with him consistently. I think there'd be real questions there. But he was used to move a lot within that offense. And I think that speaks to, of course, trying to get him in different positions, but it really speaks to the football intelligence of the player. You see the pre-snap communication between him and quarterback, the ball's going there, right? Quick reads, understanding of who's going to be where's the motion, where you got to be, I'm going to communicate with my teammates, and then filling in his own holes. This was a highly football intelligent player from what I've seen in terms of understanding how to attack certain coverage and the look that they were giving me defensively. All right, now I thought every once in a while there'd be hit and miss depth, like the route depth would be a little bit off, but for the most part, in terms of where to get to, I thought he was really good in that aspect. And again, that's how I felt that he won. Craftiness, route savvy. You talk about the eye discipline that he uses. We're talking underneath. The route savvy, the eye discipline, the way that he uses that to open up leverage, maintain leverage at the line of scrimmage when he is getting it. You also have to look at the fact that he's able to attack zone leverage really well, find those windows. Okay, where's the linebacker playing, right? If he's 6 yards off, where's he playing? Is he inside? Is he outside? How do I attack that to maintain the leverage so I can break out? Or how do I get him to open himself up? That way I can get inside. Really nice job of all those things. Toughest thing about him in terms of separation for defenders is him at the top of the route. It does get set up early in a lot of sense because he puts himself in a good position, but for him at the top of the route is where he just shakes guys. He shakes dudes at the top of the route. I think it comes back to, again, the route discipline, right? The way that he uses his eyes, the way that he sells things. You'll even see it at the line of scrimmage, the way that he sells himself off the line of scrimmage, again, trying to maintain leverage, and he's really able to pry open defenders occasionally, but you especially see that at the top of the routes. Read routes, right, where he can read off the defender's action. You'll get a couple extra steps in there, right? Not everything is super crisp and just like, okay, plant and go, but what his strength is open you up at the top of the route, getting you to lean back, right? Just taking those extra steps, reading off your body weight and playing through that. Now, I did feel like he would occasionally kind of roll through routes a little bit, running at, a little bit of a higher speed to plant immediately and then break out of it. You would get kind of some stutters in there trying to break down. So for him, again, you talk about playing, on the outside, that can be an issue. Now, they definitely did some, RPO, quick speed outs, things like that. So you saw those, especially against off coverage when they'd audible into him. But in terms of planning and breaking, I thought there were definitely occasions where he'd kind of roll through the top of the route, average, lateral twitch, lateral burst, even lateral agility. Like you think of a guy like Cooper Kupp, the way that he moves laterally, this guy does really well, again, at attacking space, attacking leverage, having hands ready into combat. But I didn't think he had like great twitch laterally to separate, and that can show off at the line of scrimmage as well to create space at the line of scrimmage. He wins with getting you off balance, right, giving you those tough jabs and really selling it. He does play with good balance. He plays with really good balance at the top of the route, especially when he's not trying to hit you with a quick plant and break. He plays really good balance at the top of the route, so it allows him, you see that off the press as well, to really sell those jabs but stay on balance. That way he can instantly break out with, I think, sufficient burst out of breaks. I would say good burst out of breaks. And I think a lot of it comes back to balance because he stays on balance. A lot of times the defender does not stay on balance. And I think that can come back to some of the flexible lower body lean that you have. There's some flexibility down there. Just some smoothness when you see the way that he gets in and out of those breaks. Just the feel, like the pacing. You'll see the pacing through the stem against zone coverage. Like kind of slowing it down, walking it down on the linebacker, then speeding up, then slowing it back down to the top of the route. Like those kind of things. Basically changing speed, right? It's not about how fast you run a straight line, especially from slot. It's about creating space. And for him, again, he does a great job of that by just consistently changing up speeds through the stem of the route, changing up the pace of what it's going to look like, not running at the same speed all the time because he's not going to consistently win that way. You see him after the catch, and I didn't see anything necessarily special here when the ball was in his hands. I don't think there's a, necessarily a second gear that he can get to when you talk about running over top. I did like how he found himself into those zone windows. Like if he had a linebacker on his hip, safety over top, he was going to run into the safety. He would start to kind of flow himself back inside, trying to create that window for a quarterback to hit. But he doesn't have that, kind of second gear to get over top of defenders, especially on the outside consistently. You wouldn't necessarily get that. From the inside, you can get it because linebackers, things like that, guys passing off routes, you can get things like that. You probably wouldn't get that consistently from the outside. I think that shows up with the ball in his hand as well. You don't necessarily have an elite second gear. There's not a ton of twitch in his game to make you miss. It's a little bit more of him trying to maintain balance necessarily, and some of that toughness, some of the strength that he has with the ball in his hands to be able to create after the catch. But there's definitely nothing that I thought was great in this category in terms of what's the ball at his hands. But they did look for him a lot of those quick hitters. And I think it kind of came back for him about staying balanced, being able to kind of bounce around through contact, a little bit of contact balance. The biggest thing for me here, and I think it's the most interesting point, is remember with Tom Kennedy, the issue was trying to find a special teams role, because for Kennedy, if he was going to make the roster, he's going to be at the bottom of the receiver depth chart, right? You didn't want to play him unless there was injuries or whatever, and then he had to step in. And he was always reliable there. But he wasn't ever at the level where it's like he's going to push for a starting role. So the issue became, and we talked about a lot, is that he didn't have a special teams role. He wasn't our punt returner. That was Khalif. He has more upside there. You look at a guy like Trey Quinn. He did some punt return work, but Khalif, I believe, will continue to get that work with the Lions. I don't necessarily think that'll be his role. Maybe it is, but I don't think it will be. The issue, similarly to Tom Kennedy for Trey Quinn, will be he has to try to find a way to get special teams work. Because when he was in the NFL with Washington, he did not get special teams work. In those 2 seasons, 60 snaps. Now, he missed some time, understandable. But when you're lower on the depth chart, you have to find the way to get on the field or make the roster, and you have to have that ability to impact special teams. And for Tom Kennedy, he really couldn't do that. Now, you look at Tom Kennedy, in the time that he's been with the Lions, he has had a career 51 snaps on special teams. That's it. He's really never had a role. That includes four 4 all last season. So he's kind of became just a spot player, special teams, elevate him, bring him up, we need him. If Trey Quinn wants to avoid that, needs to try to carve out a special teams role. I do feel like his skill set could allow him to excel a little bit more in terms of coverage situations. There could be some potential. I'm sure the Lions are going to give him work at special teams, see if they see that that's there. I definitely think there's the strength, there's the toughness to do it. Does he have the speed to consistently be a factor on special teams? I don't know about that. Right, I think that's a big question. It was a question in the past, but there could be opportunity to play some coverage units, potentially be a blocker, because I thought he was a solid blocker when they ran screens, when they ran anything underneath, and he would get up to the second level and hit a block, not necessarily maintaining, but positioning himself. So I think there's an opportunity for special teams impact, but that'll be the biggest question for him. Because originally when I saw this move, I'm like, well, what's really the big difference between him and Tom Kennedy? Like, why would you make this move? But then when you realize it's WAIVE injured, then you're like, okay, well, that's why. You're getting someone that's honestly, I think, somewhat similar in the sense that he wins with craftiness, not elite athleticism, and he doesn't have much of a special teams role, at least at this point. So we'll see if he can carve that out. But I think this is really cool that Trey Quinn is here. I like watching him play and going back and watching him. He was enjoyable to watch as a player, and he has a really nice feel, I think, for the game. So this is a really cool opportunity. I think it just speaks to what the USFL does, and you're seeing guys. I think Levi Ball was signed by Seattle. I remember watching him out of Texas State. So it's just an awesome opportunity for these guys to have a chance to put their film out there in the USFL, and then teams can sign them. And before, you may not have the opportunity. You're just looking at whatever they have, and there's nothing there. You may have to go back to college. So be able to update your resume is really cool. And I'm wishing for the best here for Trey Quinn and also for Tom Kennedy. We love Tom Kennedy, and I'm wishing the best of luck here to Trey Quinn. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.